Cool. So to start, I guess just how did you find yourself at the Future Forest Company? Like, what was your journey before? And yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, divine intervention. I guess you might want to call it. So I'd been working in the travel industry for years and years, in partnerships management for the last sort of 8-9 years, and alongside that, the company that I was working with at the time was going through their sustainability journey, and I knew that that was the direction I wanted to be in full time. But you know what it's like, you're in a career, you feel like it's harder to pivot away from that career. And then COVID happened. I then did every sustainability course under the sun. I then had my daughter and I stepped away from work for a year. And that when it was time for me to return, I just knew that I had to make the change. And so I took a leap of faith and here I am.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that that was the journey. I feel like COVID prompted so many people to kind of just take a big leap career-wise.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I guess I was wearing several different hats in my previous role, and I knew that I wanted to be more focused on the sustainability side, and it was just really working out how to get into that. But as I said, you know what it's like, you get on a career wheel and you just feel it keeps going and going and going. And you know, although it was an awful time during COVID, it was that sort of moment I needed to say, well, actually, if I want to take that turn and go and do something else, then this is the opportunity to start preparing for it, really, and laying some of the groundwork.
Amazing. And you mentioned kind of having a sparked interest in sustainability when your company started that journey. Has that something that's always been something you're passionate about, or did it kind of develop over time?
Yeah, no, I think I've always been passionate about it. And, you know, we call it sustainability, we call it lots of different phrases now, don't we? But I think that ever since I was a little girl, you know, going to the duck pond and etc., I've always loved the natural world. And if I'm stressed, I still take myself off for a walk in the woods now. So I think it's always been there. But growing up a child, maybe of the 80s and 90s, there wasn't so much awareness around what it actually meant and the benefits of it. So yeah, I traveled a lot after uni. I then worked at sea for 8 years, and I guess I saw firsthand what was being done to the landscape that I was traveling through. I was very privileged position to see that, and then went to work for an expedition company. And I guess in some ways I refound myself and my sense of purpose and being maybe an advocate for the natural world. And I knew that I wanted to make a positive contribution. And so that's when I started to go through the process of how to become more sustainable, how to become an advocate within the organisation that I was in at the time. And when they, in turn, looked to go through the process of making themselves greener, I guess you would say, or more sustainable, I leapt at the chance and went through the Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And learn on the job as well, I guess.
Definitely. And in terms of your role at the Future Forest Company and just in general, what excites you most about the work that we're doing?
It's making a difference. I wake up in the morning and I feel energized to be surrounded by people with the same vision, the same sense of purpose, and you're surrounded by people who are absolute experts in the field that they're in, and it's contagious. And I guess, you know, we're always reassessing the impact and what is the best impact on on nature and what we're doing. And it's not just reforestation, it's that much wider picture of holistic land management. And I really love the fact that we're so open with collaborating with, you know, different people in the space, and it is a different way of working, and it's brilliant. And when you start to see those tangible changes on the ground, it's fantastic. And I'm very lucky to be working in the space that I'm working in, and yeah, it's Every day is different, but every day is really good.
Oh, I love that. And I guess it's kind of cool that you're in a position where you get to help other companies and other people have that same experience of making a difference.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the challenges surrounding that, especially for businesses at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's so many different challenges for business, whether it's, you know, coming from their bottom line or, you know, overall perception. I think that we're all in it together, and it's all of our responsibility to collaborate and make as much of a positive environmental impact as you can. But I guess for businesses, I suppose they've got three main initial challenges, haven't they? Or certainly in the experience that I've had, is that they don't know where to start, they don't know how, and they aren't sure how to relay what they're doing to either their clients or even those who might be the people that make that decision on what sort of contribution they're making. And I think after that, probably, and sadly the biggest one, is that they're scared of sounding like they're greenwashing, and it means that then they do nothing at all, which is the absolute worst case. So I think that all of those problems can be solved and addressed, but sometimes that leads to a bit of a paralysis, and sometimes a lot gets spoken about and not much gets done.
How do you think we can help overcome those challenges? And I guess what advice, if any, would you give to businesses in that position of kind of just being paralyzed by fear, not wanting to take action, but realizing that they really need to take action?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's about taking action, and I don't think anything that anyone does in life is perfect, or if there's people out there that do things in a perfect way, then they're much better than I am. But I think that first of all, for a business, is to take the action, is first of all reach out for support, learn about sustainability. I think most importantly, probably being transparent and being honest about the journey that they're on. And I think, again, some businesses can be quite scared about that, of being honest with their clients and saying, look, we know we have a carbon footprint, or, you know, we know we have an impact on the environment, and they shy away from it. But the truth is that every business has an impact on the environment, and it's about being accountable and taking those meaningful steps forward. And I think that by approaching this kind of journey with that attitude, it just means that you tend to steer clear of greenwashing, because they're being so transparent about everything that's happening, and that actually you just need to start. And it maybe sounds a bit trite for me to say that, but you know, I know that businesses have so many of these challenges, but once they get this sustainability part of their journey, instead of feeling like, oh, actually we have to do ABC before we do DEF, I'm a firm believer in just starting. Do something. It's better than the alternative. Be open about it and just start to make those changes, even if they're only incremental changes to start with. I think you just have to get over that hump of worrying about where do we start and what are people going to think. It's about just relaying your message in the right kind of way. Is that all right?
Definitely. Perfect. Definitely. I think there's an interesting argument around like the importance of businesses being involved in, I guess, financially being involved in restoration efforts and conservation efforts. And some people tend to view it as like monetizing nature and like we're selling off nature as commodities, but really that work couldn't get done if we didn't have that financial input. So there's such an important role that businesses do have to play. And I was wondering if you could share any insights around that whole sort of view of it.
And yeah, it's such a good point that you make. And you know, just to be really blunt about it, is that businesses play a vital role in restoration efforts, because they bring financial resources to the table, and they allow the work, nature restoration work, the sort of work that we do at the Future Forest Company, to be done at scale, which is what needs to be happening now. It's, you know, we need to make those big leaps forward. And I think that businesses being involved in any kind of nature regeneration, restoration, protection effort is, of course, yes, it mitigates climate change, it ensures resilience to environmental risks. And we talk about, this phrase of ecosystem services a lot in this sector, which doesn't sound very glamorous. And I guess it can sound a bit dull, to be completely honest, but it's anything but. It's essentially our ecosystems that provide these vital services to all life as we know it: clean water, air purification, climate regulation, and it's essential to life on Earth. And by being involved in these restoration efforts, businesses can basically help maintain these services, if you want to use that word. And without them, then the whole of society face really significant challenges. And I think it's just so vital. And outside of that side of things, of it, being the right thing to do, is that for businesses themselves, is the world has changed and the world is far more aware of what is happening now. The average person on the street does have some sort of understanding of climate change. And I think that for businesses to be involved in this, it enhances brand reputation, it enhances brand value. And I think that it's a positive way to be involved as being responsible. And I think that clients, customers increasingly will always look to companies that are got sustainability initiatives, and it's where you get loyalty. So yeah, I think that it benefits society as a whole, but it also benefits the businesses that are involved in the sort of work that we do.
Definitely. And it's kind of like an all hands on deck situation at the moment. There isn't really, it's not just a nice checkbox to have on your website. It's kind of like essential to running a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of, you kind of touched on this, but business's impact is kind of, I guess the bottom line of a business's impact is really measured in terms of carbon emissions nowadays. Like there's so much around that. And one of the things that can be quite difficult to navigate are carbon targets, and like the idea of having net zero and achieving net, like carbon neutrality. Where do you stand on that, and how do you feel about those goals in terms of driving action and, achieving climate action?
Yeah. Humans are really good at overcomplicating things, aren't we? I think that any business that's already set those kind of goals, it's laudable and they need to be commended for what they're doing. And I think first and foremost is that whether you've set yourself a carbon target or not, or you're going towards net zero, or you're racing towards net zero, whatever it is and what you might be doing, is that first and foremost, all businesses across the board need to reduce their carbon emissions, and that has to always come first before any business looks to mitigate, whether that's through carbon units or any kind of other way of doing it. So that has to be the primary strategy, because there just aren't enough carbon sinks in the world to mitigate everyone's carbon emissions if we're not doing what we should be doing. I think that for businesses, it's important for them to understand why what they're doing is important. And I think sometimes there's a danger of it becoming a tick box exercise, which I think dehumanizes us all. So we have to understand why what we're doing is important, for them to assess their carbon footprint and then set some clear goals off the back of that. And after that, once the business has looked at their carbon footprint, if they're in the position to do so, and I understand that some businesses don't have the resources to maybe start that way to start with, but you're in the position to do so, is then to choose the right kind of offset project. And I think that quality matters. Again, I'll say transparency again. It's really important to be transparent on that journey, engage your stakeholders. I think that's a huge point. And stakeholders does not necessarily always clients, but their customers as well, and not only employees as well, and stay informed of that landscape. And I suppose that I lean into the idea again is that yes, 100% we need to be looking to reduce that carbon load, but we need to be looking at investing or taking part in projects that are doing the right thing on the ground, that have longevity built into them, and also just about getting started. And however small your business is what can I do to start to make those differences, would be my kind of way of approaching it, I guess.
Definitely. I think you touched on an important point, and it's something that's popping up in the media a lot about kind of these unregulated carbon offsetting schemes. And just to kind of touch on that, how are our carbon projects different?
So, yeah, and I think it's a really important point that you make, is that there has been some criticism of climate projects out there and carbon projects, and I think, you know, it's justified. I absolutely do. But I also think on that side of things is that there are some amazing things happening at scale on the ground, doing the right thing, and we just can't turn away from the carbon market and what it offers in terms of regenerating nature, and particularly those kind of nature-based solutions. We have to look to those. And the Future Forest Company, mentioned it previously, you know, what was kind of drove me to come and work for FFC is that there are a lot of experts on the ground who are incredibly passionate about what we do. So we've always operated with a nature first strategy. We're in this for long-term nature regeneration and protection of what we already have. So all of our sites are considered on an individual basis. We work to really carefully curated planting plans in terms of woodland carbon, and we carefully consider the wider impact of everything that we do. So it's very much the right tree in the right place ethos. So there are no monocultures. You'll see broadleaf trees on our sites. You'll see native trees on our sites. And the idea is that we work with the land, not against it. And, you know, there are large areas of our sites given over to ecological restoration as well, like wildflower meadows, where we actively work to enhance those areas. So we offer woodland credits, and we also offer peatland credits as well. They're all verified, they're traceable, they're authentic, and we work closely with the Woodland Carbon Code and the Peatland Code to verify that carbon that's stored as a result of those projects. And the funds from the sale of those projects are also invested right back into the business. So it allows us to finance our restoration projects at scale across all of our environmental efforts across the UK. And I think that it's really important that what we're doing in terms of our carbon projects and beyond our carbon projects is that it's not just the environmental benefits, it positively impacts the human well-being of the communities around us and the communities that visit those sites, you know, creating far more livable environments. And I think that by prioritizing that reforestation in this holistic way, we can address climate change, but we can also enhance the quality of life for people living in those areas for future generations as well.
Very well said. This kind of work comes with a lot of red tape and challenges and setbacks. How do you navigate the difficult days and kind of stay motivated to keep showing up and keep helping businesses and individuals make this transition?
Stay off social media. No, I'm joking. Sometimes beyond social media, because I think that there are so many positive stories out there, and they are there if you look for them. I know that the media loves to kind of create this kind of horror story, and the situation is serious. It absolutely is. But there are so many success stories out there that they are what keeps me motivated, even within what we're doing at Future Forest Company. Even the other day, we were seeing a huge uptick in the amount of a certain species of butterfly that's on one of our sites, just through the start of that biodiversity work that we're doing in the area. So it galvanizes you with that sense of energy. And I think that, yeah, absolutely, a sustainable future is possible. More people are aware of the situation we're in, and you can't change a situation unless you know the facts behind the situation. So, you know, there are so many people in this space now that are looking to do right, but not even necessarily within this space, but outside of it. So businesses want to help, everyone wants to get involved, and as you said before, it's a bit of an all hands on deck mentality, but that can't do anything but give you hope for the future. If everyone is working towards that goal, then this is it now. We're rolling in the right direction. And yes, we do need to perhaps move a little bit faster, and we do need the input of other organizations and governments, etc., but it's happening, and we're not going backwards now. So there is no alternative. So no, I remain hopeful. And yeah, you get out into nature and you just see how positive it can be on your own mental health. You can only feel positive that more and more people get involved, and make the change and make the difference.
Definitely. You've touched on this slightly, but if a small business is kind of doubting the kind of impact that they can make in terms of reducing their emissions, or just small changes like switching to, you know, like reusable packaging or planting trees for every customer, changes that don't always feel that significant in the grand scheme of things, but actually are, like, what advice would you give people that are kind of pondering how big of an impact they can really make?
Yeah. Well, it's taking everyone. So I don't, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're an individual, whether you're a business, whether you're a bigger organization, and beyond that, I think that it's everyone's responsibility to start making changes to their impact. And again, I think it might sound trite, but just start. Look at your business, look where you can make the changes, even if it's as small as, like you say, starting to think about reusable packaging, or even as small as changing the loo paper in your staff toilets. You know, engage your team. I guarantee there will be people in your business who will be interested in this and who will be invested in making a difference for your business. Be open about what you're trying to do, and just, yeah, take people on your journey with you, and just think about how you can start to mitigate your impact. And again, it's just about starting, which is more than one bit of advice, I know, but it all sort of rolls into one. You have to take people on your journey, you have to be transparent, and you just have to start.
That's perfect. And I know you've mentioned this to me before, that you're thinking a lot about the idea of the future, and I guess future generations, and kind of the world that we're shaping, and it really plays into our name. But what is your hope for the future, and like for the next generation of people growing up in this world? Like, what do you hope it looks like for them?
Gosh, that's a big question, isn't it? But I guess, without doing too much navel gazing, is that I hope that for me, my mission is to leave this planet in a better place than I found it, to quote David Attenborough. And I think that, you know, for future generations, it's our responsibility, and we look to younger generations to start to make the change. And there's all this talk about generation restoration and young people, you know, starting to really move forward in that space. But it's up to us. It's up to my generation. It's up to my parents' generation. Everyone can start to make that change, because, you know, I want my daughter to be able to grow up in a world where she can go and walk into a space where she has access to clean air, clean water. And it's really as big as that. That's what we have to do, and we can't just leave it to anybody else. And things can be done now, and the time is now, because I want to be a good ancestor to future generations that come after me, and come after, you know, my daughter. The change has to start now. And while it feels like a big responsibility sometimes, it's the opportunity is huge. What a legacy to leave, if we can be that generation as a whole that makes that change.
Very well said. I feel like people often forget that those ecosystem services literally are the difference between us breathing clean air and not breathing clean air.
Yeah,
it comes down to what we do right now.
Absolutely. And we've kind of always seen them as as free services that, you know, oh, water, that's you turn on the tap. I know obviously, you know, some people have water meters and things like that, but you don't think of it in that way, that it's that big. It's that, yeah, no, I think it's time that we start to work in synergy with the planet and every living thing on it. It's as big as that. Yeah.